Rock's always with the interesting questions. How are you, my friend? This is interesting because, when we were on set, I had a conversation with Heron at one point. I think this was, I don't know where we see it the most, but we definitely see it when the gang descends upon Braithwaite. We kind of talked about how Charles and Lenny have this relationship where I think they look after each other, and Charles especially kind of takes Lenny on as like a younger brother of sorts. So as they're moving on Braithwaite, you can even see there's a moment, at least we definitely did the PCAP for it. I don't know if they kept it, but where as we were moving, and I think I started moving to the right flank. I actually take Lenny and I'm like, come on, because the basic idea was I wanted him to be where I could cover him with my shotgun if stuff started going down. So as far as what it would be like if Charles had to teach Sean and Lenny how to use a bow and arrow. For Lenny, I think, so with archery, right, it is a finesse. It's not a strength issue. And I think people like Bill, who rely on their physical strength so much, have a harder time often picking up a finesse skill like archery. It's certainly been my experience teaching combatives and some gun work and blade work that oftentimes my best students are women and more slightly built men that aren't super muscle bound, because they aren't relying on raw power in their day-to-day, and so their ability to relax and pay attention to what their body is telling them to do instead of trying to tell their body what to do often makes a big difference. I know the first time we ever went shooting, my wife and I had never shot pistols before, and my wife shot much better than I did, most likely in large part for that same purpose, or for that same reason. All of that to say, I think, first of all, I think Charles would have patience in spades for Lenny. And I can see Lenny asking really, really perceptive, really sharp questions, I noticed, Charles, your elbow is here, not here. Why is that? I can see Lenny asking really, really insightful questions, and Charles being impressed and really enjoying teaching him. Lenny is young and has a brash streak in him, so I can see maybe Lenny would struggle a little bit with the patience side of it, but I think he would learn it quickly, and I think actually for Charles it would be an important lesson that he wouldn't, I'm not going to say wouldn't let Lenny walk away from, but I think he would work really hard to try to ensure that Lenny learned the skill, because especially for someone like Lenny, who probably would learn to shoot really well, it could be a real survival skill. Yeah, man, I don't know why I made the decision that Charles cared so much about Lenny, but even, spoilers for folks if you watch this, when Lenny dies, which, because I had no lines, I did not know, I didn't get a script, so I didn't know that that's what happens in that moment. That really upset me. both as Noshir the actor and as Charles. Because Heron's just such a delight to be around and so talented. The idea that this might be, his last day was just a shock to me. And so when we go through that doorway and Lenny takes that hit, we were instructed to just move. And I'm assuming it's still in the game. I hope it is. You'll see Charles pause and turn to check on Lenny before he keeps moving. And if I'm not mistaken, I actually got yelled at for it. Because the animation team was like, no, the whole thing is that there's chaos. Lenny goes down, the team has to move. And I was told to do it again and not stop. And I did. I stopped again because I felt it was really important. Charles would never leave Lenny alone on a rooftop and not make sure he was dead. That was really important to me. Sean, man, it's interesting because I didn't have a lot of scenes with Sean, but well, it's funny, trying to separate the actor from the character, because Sean the actor is one of the most wonderful people I've ever met. Sean Maguire, I don't say this often, and I'm not sure if I actually know the reason. I might explore it in just talking about it. I did not like Sean as Charles. And I think there's a scene where Arthur and Sean are talking. I think it's right before we go out on a heist or something of that sort, where they get into a bit of a thing where Sean's just ribbing on Arthur, and Arthur gives a little bit of pushback, and I think Sean either draws on him or makes an insinuation that Arthur better watch his back. And in the scene, I start off, I think, just resting on the wagon or something, and all I remember is as the scene went on, I became acutely aware that Sean was probably the most dangerous person in the gang, because he's volatile. You just never know what he's gonna do, and I fucking hated that. Because an element like that means that you never know when your peace is going to be disrupted. And in that moment where Sean, and all credit to Mick for bringing the heat. What I love about Mick Melfi was he brought a Melamfi, son of a bitch, is that Mick brought a real wild card danger to Sean. I don't know how much of it came across in the game. He's got an affable nature and he's easy to love, but man, when he turns on a fucking dime. And I remember in that moment as Sean kind of bared his teeth at Arthur, I reached back and just rested my hand on the butt of the shotgun, because I was going to take Sean out. And then I think Mick has this wonderful turn where he holds the tension and he's like, I'm just kidding, and kind of walks up, and as Charles is just and I watched Mick strut off, and I just remember thinking I've got to watch that motherfucker, because Arthur was going to give him too much grace, just enough rope to get them both hanged, And like it's ironic because like Mick, the man, is just such a delight, such a giving, kind, gregarious, community-driven man who stands by his principles and like will talk to you about anything under the sun, and he'll do it with knowledge and wisdom and grace. And like if you disagree with him, he's one of those folks who is in such limited supply right now where like you can have a disagreement with him and you will never feel like you are being attacked or like you have to defend yourself. He really wants to hear what you have to say. An amazing man. And so I say all that to say, like, it's hard for me to remember my feelings on Sean because I had such little interaction with Sean as Charles, and so much more interaction with Mick as Nosh. And I love him so much. All that to say, if Charles, for some insane reason, decided to take Sean out into the woods and teach him how to use a bow and arrow, I think Sean would test Charles' patience in a crazy way. Because Sean's gonna joke and gab and, you know, be completely disrespectful of a thing that for Charles is like not just a way of life, but is hallowed, you know, is sacred. And I can totally see Charles like giving Sean a thump and just stalking off, if he felt he could turn his back on Sean. I guess it would have to depend on how he left the situation. If Sean was laughing, he'd be fine with stalking away. If Sean got serious, I don't know, maybe only one of us walks out of there. Yeah, it's funny. I haven't thought about Charles's relationship with Sean in a long time. In many ways more than Micah. I did not like that dude. He's just erratic. Too explosive, too volatile, and too unhinged. Micah was evil, no question, but like, I mean, if you were gonna nerd out and do it as like D&D, I feel like Micah in many ways was like lawful evil. Like he had a code of his own in a way, and like you knew what Micah was gonna do because he was always looking out for Micah. Maybe that's neutral evil. I don't know. I'm not gonna nerd out too much over it, but Sean was chaotic for sure. Not chaotic evil, but like, I mean, at best chaotic neutral, but like chaotic for sure. Which is a thing I think Charles would struggle with the most. Because there's no reasoning with a person like that. You can't sit down and shake the shit out of them and try to talk them out of it. Because like, Sean would laugh at reasoning, right? And kind of like just lope along on his way. I wonder how many times they interacted like that, and if it made Charles's hackles rise every time. I don't know. I'm not gonna win any friends by saying this, but I think I remember in the scene when we find out that like Sean is dead. It's a horrible thing, and it's a horrible thing for the gang, and yet a small part of Charles is relieved. Because I really thought Sean might get Arthur killed. Get us found out for sure. Thanks for always asking the cool questions.